Well, Josh got out of the truck and he crossed the road, and I moved over into the driver's seat and dialed 911. And then I was on the phone with 911, and I was telling them that there was an altercation that was taking place, and that somebody was hurt. And did you want to know what I saw or what I did?
I'm going to ask you the next question. Okay. And how long do you think you got out of the truck after Josh got out of the truck?
Within a minute or two.
Okay. What do you recall observing initially, whether you were in the vehicle or out of the vehicle? What's the first thing you remember seeing?
In the vehicle from the passenger side, before I crossed over into the driver's side, like I said, we both saw what appeared to be a fight. There were several people involved. It looked like there was a young man and then some other teenagers that were kicking, punching somebody that was down on the ground. After Josh got out of the vehicle and I moved over to the driver's side, I was able to see what appeared to be a man on the ground with a young woman that he had subdued somehow. There were teenagers that appeared to be kicking him and punching the man, but again, there was a lot of commotion. So I don't know how many teenagers were doing it, but
Sure.
But that was kind of the setup of the situation.
And you said that there was a young woman. Where did you see this young woman?
The young woman, she was on the ground.
And on the ground where?
On the ground in front of the man.
And when you say in front of the man, can you describe to me what you mean? Like underneath the man, on top of the man? Were they standing up, sitting down? What does that look like?
They were on the ground, and what it looked like was that the man had, and I couldn't see if it was a young woman yet, because she had hair in her face, and there was dust coming up. But what appeared to be is his arm was around her neck. And her, like I said, her face, she had hair on her face, and then I feel like she was wearing a pair of pants too. So initially, like I said, I couldn't see if it was a young woman or a young man, but I learned quickly thereafter, after she got up, that it was a young girl.
And what is Josh doing during this time?
When Josh crossed the street, he disappeared into the group of people, and then he was pushing people aside to get down to what was the source of all of the conflict.
And do you recall if he pushed? Who did he push aside?
So there was the man that was holding the young woman, and then there were other teenagers that were hitting the man, and then there were also two other women that were trying to get in the way of the teenager who was hitting the man, and then Josh was pushing everyone aside, and he got down to the man who was holding the young woman on the ground, and at that point, let's see, yes. So I don't know how much further. Sorry, I don't know how much of the story you want, or if there's initial questions that you want me to stop for. Okay.
So as I understand where you're at right now, have you exited the vehicle yet, or are you still in the vehicle? Do you remember?
At this point, I had exited the vehicle, but I was still standing next to the vehicle, and I was on the phone with 911, and I was describing to them what I was seeing.
Okay, and as you're watching this, you've described to other women. Were they adult women or teens or kids or something else?
It appeared to be an older woman, and then a teenage age woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how were they dressed, if you remember?
So both of them were dressed all in black, and both had a headscarf on.
And when you saw them appear, did you see them doing anything to help assist the woman on the ground?
No. What it seemed to me is that they were trying to stop the teenagers from hitting the man in that situation. So no, I didn't see them trying to stop the stop. I'm afraid of the words to use. Assault. I'm sorry. Can I say that? Is that okay to say?
That's what you saw, though. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever actually cross the street?
I did.
And what do you recall seeing when you crossed the street?
When I crossed the street, I saw that the young woman who had been held down on the ground, she was being pulled up, and she was stumbling behind the trees. She was stumbling off, just kind of running away. It was what it looked like, but her footing was very bad, and so she was stumbling across in front of me. And then there was the young man who had been punching the older man on the ground, and he was going with her, kind of pulling her off to the side. The two women that were dressed in black, they followed her. At that point, Josh had subdued the man on the ground at that point. So Josh was over in the...
All right, let's bring in our guest again to discuss, former prosecutor, criminal and civil defense attorney Randolph Rice. Randolph, one quick question. As we watched there the testimony, we saw Zahra Ali, and she's in a headscarf. Is there a world under any circumstances where you might ask someone, based on just general prejudices in the world, someone of that religion who wears a headscarf, perhaps not to wear a headscarf in court?
You know, that's a tough question, Michael, and I think it's something that she has to make the decision herself as to how she wants to dress. But, you know, I don't think, you know, the courts typically allow people to wear clothing that's consistent with their religion, so I don't think the court would restrict that. You know, this is who she is, and she's decided to dress like this, and I think it's appropriate for this situation.
No, absolutely. I'm not suggesting it's not. I was just wondering if you were representing her or defending her, knowing that people might look negatively upon certain things just because of the way the world is, you might make that recommendation. But fair enough. I know I wouldn't, just because, you know, that's something that's so sort of important to their religion. You don't want to do it. It's just the way it is.
No, you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah. It's a difficult situation, but I agree. I want to ask about eyewitnesses. As we listen to the eyewitness, and they're talking about things where, you know, I heard some alarming things, she says. She says she can't breathe. She heard the teen saying, call 911. She heard them saying her eyes are rolling in her head. We heard testimony about that as well from another eyewitness. Eyewitnesses are so important in this case because we can't know what was in the father's mind in terms of intent, but this type of testimony can help inform how we view his intent, can it not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, eyewitnesses provide so much valuable information for both sides because they can add context to what's going on. You know, we have this great video, or I should say the prosecution has this great video that they're getting to use, but oftentimes you don't get to see what's outside of that lens, and you don't really get to feel what's going on and how chaotic and the nature of this crime is. But this eyewitness is able to sort of, remember, she's kind of looking back at this from a distance and able to see everything and take everything in. It's incredibly impactful for jurors.
Yeah, I would agree. And what I'm taking from her is, as far as she was concerned, coming upon this, it was a dire situation. And that's important for the prosecution. All right, Randolph Rice, thank you so much for being with me this last hour. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Folks, we want you to stay with us because coming up next, we have special coverage in the attempted honor killing trial out of Washington State. We'll get you back inside the courtroom in the next hour, so keep it here on Pro TV, your front row seat to justice.
I secured my bus by putting in neutral, engaging the emergency brake, and I went out there and confronted the man while he was on the ground holding the female student. And I told him, let her go. And I believe I said it probably 2 or 3 times, let her go.
And how did you say that?
I yelled it. I said, let her go, let her go.
And did he?
He did not.
Welcome back to our special coverage of the attempted honor killing trial in Washington State. I'm Michael Ayala. Ihsan Ali and his wife Zahra are accused of attempting to kill their 17-year-old daughter last October. Now, witnesses say Ihsan attacked his daughter at a bus stop outside her former school. The incident was captured by the bus's surveillance system. The victim's father allegedly punched her boyfriend and then put her in a chokehold. According to court documents, the victim told police that her father had recently threatened her with an honor killing for rejecting an arranged marriage. But the jury will never hear about that threat because the judge ruled the terms of honor killing and arranged marriage are too prejudicial, and he banned both sides from using them. Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas joins us now with more. Hey, Cody.
Well, good evening, Michael. It's always great to see you, my friend. Now, the day began with opening statements from both sides, with the state hammering on the frantic words said by students who witnessed the confrontation, including, quote, "Get off her, let go of her, and somebody call the cops."
Those were the same frantic words from the same set of students as they watched Mr. Ali compress Fatima's neck until her eyes rolled into the back of her head, until her face turned pale, and until she lost consciousness. And rather than help her daughter, Mrs. Ali also put her hands and arms around her daughter's neck and compressed and squeezed until somebody was finally able to pull Fatima to safety.
You're going to see 42 punches, 3 kicks to the head, all done by Isaiah and his friends to Mr. Ali.
The purpose for being there that day was not to have contact with Isaiah. It was to locate her daughter. This case, there's no winners.
Ihsan and Zara Ali sat in court today as testimony began. Their defense teams say the two parents were simply trying to convince their runaway daughter to come home. But up first on the witness stand today for the state was bus driver John Denicola. He described what he witnessed between the two parents and their daughter during that altercation.
While they were fighting, while the punches were being thrown, he did lay a punch onto the male student who fell back. And at that time, the adult actually grabbed this female student.
When you say grabbed her, what do you mean by that?
He grabbed her, like through the front, spun around, and then put a chokehold on her.
Now, up next for the state was a responding officer to the scene of the altercation. We'll have more from him later this hour. Michael?
All right, Cody, thank you so much for getting us caught up on that. Right now, I want to get you folks back into court where testimony is continuing. A woman who witnessed the fight is still on the stand on direct examination.
Trees, he was over there, and I saw the woman stumble across in front of me, and
I'm going to have you hit pause for a moment. When
Yes.
you say the woman stumble across in front of you, and I know that, first of all, do you know any of these individuals?
I don't know any of them personally, no.
Okay.
No.
And so, and I know that we are using a lot of young man, young woman,
Yes.
the woman. I know that can be difficult, so I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things for me.
Okay.
First, I'm going to ask you to slow down just a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And so when you are talking about the young woman stumbled, which young woman are you referring to?
Do you want me to give them a name?
No.
Or, no, okay.
I'm sorry, so you can't ask questions,
Oh,
but if you can't answer the question that's asked, you can say that and she will ask it in another way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask, since you don't know any of these people individually, and I don't want you to testify about something that you may have learned later regarding names, I'm going to ask you to only use the description of the individuals that you saw at the time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So starting first with the young woman that you described on the ground, where did she go?
She was pulled up and crossed in front of me to my left. So this was happening on the right side of me, and she crossed in front of me to the left side of me. The young man that had been punching the older man on the ground, he went with her and was pulling her. The two women that were initially at the scene that were both dressed in black, the older woman and the younger woman, they followed the woman the young woman who had been pulled up from the ground.
Okay, I'm going to have you pause.
Okay.
And did you see how the two women wearing black, or all in black, how were they interacting with the young woman that had just stood up, that had been on the ground?
They seemed to be trying to.
Objection as to speculation as to what they're trying to do as opposed to what they did.
I'm going to sustain as to non-responsive.
So not assuming or speculating about what they did, what did you observe? What did it appear to you that you observed?
They were running toward the young woman who had just gotten up off the ground, and the young man was trying to prevent them from getting to her.
And what was the young woman doing specifically?
She was stumbling and running in the opposite direction of where she had come from.
Okay, was she running back towards either woman in black?
No, she was running away.
Okay. And so when you got across the street, well, let me back up. How did the young woman seem to you when you saw her? The young woman who had been on the ground, and I believe you described earlier the older man had had his arms around her.
She seemed in...
Cause for speculation as to her condition.
Overruled.
That means you can answer. How did she seem to you? How did she appear?
She appeared incredibly confused.
And what do you mean by that? What does that look like?
She seemed to not know what her surroundings were. She was like I said, she was in kind of a panic. At one point, there was a slight altercation between the women that were wearing black and the young man who was assisting the young woman who was on the ground. And at that point, I ran. I was in the middle of the street at that point, but I ran across and started screaming at everybody to just stop, because there was still fighting going on. And the young woman she turned around and looked at me, and her eyes were huge. I mean, she had hair in her face. She looked completely disheveled. She looked very confused, absolutely terrified. And she looked at me and then turned the opposite direction and ran towards the high school. So she didn't say any words or anything to me. So.
And initially or earlier in your direct, I believe you used the phrase she was not sure-footed. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
She was stumbling. She could not stay on her feet. She was trying to run, but was falling, tripping over herself.
And I'll come back to that question. So you said you called 911 during this. Is that correct?
I called 911 before I left the truck, yes.
Okay. And did you stay on with 911 throughout that interaction?
I did.
Okay. What did you do? At some point, did you, what happened to the vehicle? What happened to your truck?
So after the young woman ran off towards the high school, the young man who was with her went that direction as well. And then I went back to the truck, and I pulled the truck into the high school parking lot. I was on the phone with 911, and they had informed me that police were almost there. So I pulled into the parking lot and stayed there until police arrived.
Thank you. And I want to go back to when you described how you observed the older man on the ground with the later, as you know, younger female or younger woman on the ground. You made a gesture earlier in trying to describe that. Can you describe what that gesture was? How was he holding her?
What I saw was her head was right about here.
So can you describe it with words?
Describe it with words, yes, absolutely.
So let me just explain something. So
yes.
We have a court reporter.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I know it's very difficult to talk slower, but our court reporter has to write down everything that is happening.
Okay.
So we have to describe what's happening as if you were reading it from a piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So if you could slow down just a little bit more.
Okay.
And then describe what you were seeing.
What I was seeing was a head with with hair in the face in the elbow area of an arm. So the head was in between a bicep and the bicep and the forearm, I suppose. That's the area that I saw the head, her head.
And when you said you observed these, the young male striking the older man, or the adult male, and the other kids engaged, were their strikes effective in releasing the young woman from the adult male?
They were not effective.
Do you recall the older woman dressed all in black saying anything about the girl on the ground?
I did not hear anything that was audible, no.